Hi, welcome to Power BI. My name is Chris Wagner, and today we're going to be talking about the data god model, or how do you get started with building out models in Power BI and tabular models. I'm really excited about this. This is something that every one of you should be getting into and looking at. And yes, that was an Australian everyone. Don't ask me why. Let's get to the video. The Analytics Rebel Alliance is counting on you. Like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, turn on that alarm bell so you don't miss any future mission. All right, so everyone has the same challenge when it comes to consuming and working with data, right? We've got data all over the place. We've got data on-prem. We've got data on the cloud. We're trying to share data all around the ecosystem. What do you do with this? How do you bring this together, right? Because every single person across the globe, no matter what area you are in, you're dealing with these exact same issues, right? So I don't care if you're in India, if you're in the USSR, if it's the USA, Mexico, Portugal, anywhere you're at, you're dealing with these common problems when it comes to working with data, all right? And it doesn't matter where you're at on your journey, this series of videos is going to help you deliver better data out to your to people and to work with it. Even if you're brand new and you're just getting started, this is going to help you out with it, right? Because there's all sorts of complex things that we're going to start to go into and talk about that you're just not familiar with today, that at the end of these video series, you're going to be used to. So don't worry. There's lots of pieces inside of here. We're going to help you explain each and every one of those pieces are out there, okay? So we're going to take you from like conception to just starting to work with code. We're going to run you through how to start to do some magic, build out some star schemas, and then do some really incredible reporting. Frankly, I'm super excited about it, all right? But do remember, this is a strategic approach to how we work with data, okay? So we need this to be repeatable. We need to be doing this over and over again. This has got to be secure. These processes have to be locked down and available for you. And frankly, if you have questions or you need to blast off, I want you leaving comments in the chat so that we can build out this community. We can work together on how we help each other and work when it comes to working with data. And like I said, we are going to start small. We're going to start where you're at. So feel free to fast forward, move ahead, whatever you got to do, because we're going to take you from crawling with data to walking to running to shooting to the stars. All right. Frankly, I'm very excited about it. All right. Let's start with getting prepped and ready to work inside this space. Okay. So first things first, you have to make sure go out. Watch the demo that I have on working with data, okay? This is an install guide. We're going to be working with the SQL Server. So you're going to need to know how to install SQL Server, get that up and running, and make sure that you have that available to you, okay? So this install guide, I'll have links down below. Check it out, run through these things. Make sure that you can follow along with this, all right? When we first start out working with data, everyone's the same thing. We start with one huge freaking table, all right? That's your first thing that you do, right? So you start with one big table, right? And this is very common. This is how everyone really started to work with data. So don't be surprised. Don't be shocked if you're in the situation where you have an Excel file, right? You have a CSV, something along those lines, right? But this concept is, you have a big honking table with a whole bunch of fields, a whole bunch of records in there, and that's what you work with. You've probably seen this in Excel, and you've built or used reports that come out of business objects or SSRS or paginated reports or wherever it happens to come from. You've had this big wall and grid of tables. So I'm going to run you through how you can get started with this, and this is going to be the first stop in our video series. All right, so let's talk about the one big table. All right, let's head over to my desktop and let's run through how you get started. Out on kratosbi.com, links will be down below. I've got a section for you to help you get up and running. It's called the Data God Model. Okay, so you get started here. I've got all sorts of assets available for you here. So you click on this guy and it's going to download some files for you. We can open this guy up. We're going to, if we pull over our download file, we pop this guy open. There's a whole bunch of SQL views that are inside of here, okay? And I can open these up inside of, let me see what I'm going to open with. I'll open it with Notepad. pull this up. It's just a whole bunch of views. If you watch my video that I linked before, you'll run through how you can execute these, create all these different views inside your SQL database. To get started, we fire up SSMS. Launch that puppy. This is SQL Server Management Studio. For those of you who didn't watch the video and are, you really need to have AdventureWorks DW 2019 installed. Free database. It's out there. You know, go to Microsoft, watch the video, install it. But we're going to connect to this. So I recommend you install it as localhost, connect in. And if you've followed the instructions right in the video, you'll have the AdventureWorks DW available for you. And if you've run all of the scripts as you should have, you'll see the following scripts that are available. These are views on top of my database. This is something that if you're building out analytics and reporting, you should have this like semantic layer to be able to access any of the data inside your workspace. So make sure that these are all available inside your environment, your SQL Server environment before you're up and running. The big key one that we're going to be working with is the VWRPT Employee Reseller Sales view. Now this view, and if I just right click on this guy, right click, select top 1,000 rows. I'm going to blow this up so we can see it. I've got a whole bunch of data that's in here. I've got all my data that's brought out. I can go in, I can see it. I can see the different keys that are in here. I've got basically a big honking wall of data that I can use inside my report. So this would be a very common type of report that we would have. This is your first one big table, okay? Now, connecting to this, you want to make sure that you remove your top 1,000. This will give you all of the records that come through inside of this view. And you can see this run, and this runs in like 2 seconds, produces 60,000 records. I mean, it's not a killer amount, so hopefully this will be really fast for you, okay? Once this is up and running, this is a great starter data model for you. So we're going to fire up Power BI Desktop, and let's talk through how we use this to start to work with our models, okay? So Power BI Desktop is going to fire up. Okay, so when Power BI connects, we're going to do something pretty simple here. We're going to go in and we're going to get to data, and then we're going to choose SQL Server, okay? Now, when this box pops up, it's going to ask me for two things. It's going to ask me for the server name and the database name. I want you to, just as a best practice, always put in both of this piece of information, okay? You'll find some places and areas where people say, no, you shouldn't do that, but for this video and as best practice, you always want to do that. So in order to get that, make sure that I have these things right. I'm going to go back into Management Studio. I'm going to go and I'm going to copy my database out. I'm going to put that in. I'm going to paste that into my local host. And then I'm going to go over to this AdventureWorks, and I'm going to go grab this guy, this name as well. So copy, and I'm going to paste this in here. And I could click on OK, but hang on one second. I want to show you another best practice here, okay? So there is a secret little sneaky thing that we can do in here, which is we can change these over to a new parameter. So instead of just hard coding this in, I'm gonna create a parameter, and I'm gonna call this server, and I'm gonna put in here localhost. I say OK, and that's going to change that to the server. And on this one, I'm going to do the exact same thing. New parameter. In this case, I'm going to call this one database. And I'm going to paste in the value. Okay. So once I've got that in, I now have the ability to either do two things. I can run an import of my data, or I can set up a direct query. All right. Now, this is going to be pretty important for you. It's going to be really dependent upon what your source is, but 99% of the time, you're going to choose import, okay? While you may want direct query, you're thinking to yourself, hey, I want really up-to-date data. I want it in real time streaming in. You're going to have a real bad time, because if you set up with direct query, you're going to be putting a significant load on that back-end database for most of your reporting, especially if you're using the one big table strategy. So here's where I want you to make sure that you choose the input value and not the direct query, okay? Now, here is another secret for you. Under the advanced options, and this is something a lot of people forget, is you have the ability to write in and put in a SQL statement. So if you do not have the ability to create data objects inside your space, and you need something that's slightly different than what the database comes as, you can write your SQL statement here. This can be really helpful for people to help shape that data from the source, pushing lots of transformations back against the SQL engine or that server that you're querying. It can really help in your modeling and decreasing the amount of compute that you're using on your local system or out inside of Power BI. So do consider that as an option. But in this case, we're going to be pulling all the information from a view. And so for many reasons, it's a good thing to connect to an object directly inside of SQL. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I've got my information here. I'm going to click on OK. It's going to ask me to authenticate. Come on now. Oh, well, I'm already connected in, so it automatically authenticated me. So that was fun. And now I'm going to just go down my list, and I'm going to find the view that I was looking for. I'm going to select this view, and I'm going to click on Load. Now, I could click on Transform Data if I want to make changes to it, want to shape this out. But I want to keep this super easy so that you can go right into creating a report off of the information that you have. All right. So I'm going to click on Load. Okay, the data is going to be queried from that back system. It's going to be brought into my Power BI file or brought into my model. And if I want to take a look at this, I've got my one big table, right? So I could see that it's got all my information in here. And I could start to build out and work with this one big table. So I'm just going to call this, I'm going to change the name on this guy. Right? I'm going to rename this guy. I'm just going to choose rename. I'm going to call this my OBT. It's my one big table. All right, so it's my OBT. And from here, I can go up and I can look at all the different columns that are in here. I can go through and I can review this to make sure that this makes sense. I can build out visuals on top of this. And frankly, this is an area I can get started working right away with. Right, so I could go to my report canvas pane and I could start to create my different visuals, start to build something inside this space. And I'm really ready to get up and running. But I'm going to ask you to do a couple things before you do, okay? So you're going to notice a bunch of things on here where you see the summation sign, right? So these are going to be columns that Power BI recognizes as integers and says, hey, it looks like you probably want to summarize these. So it's going to kind of take a crack at identifying what you'd want to summarize. And for annual revenue, that makes sense. Annual sales, oh yeah, that's good. But currency key, that doesn't make any sense, right? And discard it or discount amount, okay, but due date key, oh, I don't know about that one. Employee key, well, I've got their names here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shape this a little bit better, okay? So I'm going to use this. I'm going to start to learn more about my tooling as I go. So I'm going to do some things. Number one, I'm going to hide things that aren't very valuable to me, right? Like I've got due date. Why do I need due date key, right? So I'm just building out a sample thing here. So I'm just going to right click it. I'm going to hide it, okay? It's going to help me as I build and work inside this space to ensure that I'm looking at the information that's most relevant to me and it's not something that I don't need or can't use. So I'm going to take this employee key. I'm going to hide that as well. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run down, see if I have any other keys that are in here. And as long as I have like a matching date, like I have order date and order date key, I'm just going to go and I'm going to hide that, okay? And I'm going to continue to like run through here, looking to see if I have anything in here that is going to be useful or not when it comes to these keys, until I've hidden all of them, so that I don't have to worry about that anymore. Right? Percentage quantity, yep, that's important. Reseller key, nope, hide that guy. Right? This also helps me make sure that I brought in all the information that I'm looking for. Sales territory key, no, hide that guy. Ship date key, yeah, get rid of that guy, hide him. Don't need that. Tax amount, yeah, I want that. Yes, okay. So I am down to just the measures that are inside of my system or summations that make sense. Oh, and the product key, I don't need that guy either, right? So hide him. And And now I'm down to just summations that have meaning and value. Oh, except for this year open. Year opened. No, that's okay. Then you know what? That's useful there. I don't see a year open that's not this, so it just must be an integer that I shouldn't be like adding up. Okay. So the next big thing that I'm going to do inside my one big table here to take me on that journey is I'm going to start to go in and I'm going to create a measure. And so what a measure is in Power BI is it's a calculation that's going to help you perform rapid analytics across the different attributes and pieces of your report. Now, at this first phase, you might say, hey, you know what, Chris, I don't need to really do that. I'm just doing summations, no big deal. And I understand that is a compelling case for many people. I'm going to ask you to do that because you're going to notice that as your report grows and as you do more and more stuff in this space, having these measures can really help you go to that next level. And you'll even find that there's lots of functions inside of Power BI that can be really challenging if you don't have those measures created. All right, so I'm going to run through and I'm going to create a new measure for each one of the little summations that I have left. And then after I create a measure, I'm going to hide that summation so I don't accidentally use it. All right, so I'm going to say new measure, annual revenue. Annual revenue. Now, please note, you cannot have the same name for two columns inside of your model. So this is annual revenue, all with no space in between. So I'm going to call this one annual revenue with a space in there. And then I'm just going to do something as simple as sum. I'm going to sum it, and I'm going to say it's going to be the sum of OBT, my square bracket. I'm going to start to type annual revenue. There's my guy. I'll hit enter, close that, enter. And now I see my annual revenue with my measure symbol next to the annual revenue. That's just the summation. So I'm going to hide this guy. All right, and I'm going to continue on repeating through this. So you're going to see me probably jump into QuickTime Reel here as I run through and build out all these measures. Pause now. You go ahead and do this stuff too, okay? Okay, so when I'm all done with this, I should be able to look at all of my columns here, and I should only see the summation for things that I wouldn't want to summarize. Like first order year, it doesn't make sense to summarize that, right? Like the sum of years is a meaningless number. But I might want to break out and understand, like by first order year, how much were the sales, right? Same thing is true, really, and this is actually pretty kind of sneaky here, is promotion discount percent. You would never add up percentages, right? Like it doesn't make sense to add up 50% plus 50% plus 25% is 125%. That's a meaningless number, right? So never ever add up percentages, okay? That doesn't help you in any way. That'd be a grouping function, right? Same thing is true of promotional max quantity. If you think about it, what this is saying is this is the maximum quantity that this promotion can use, right? So if you're trying to figure out what the promotional discount percentage is, if the order's above a certain amount, you can't, you'd have to, multiply and then minus or whatever, right? Like, so you'd only get the promotional amount on a certain amount. So you can't really summarize that guy. Revision number, that's going to be on an order, how many revisions you've been through. So like that's a meaningless thing to sum up. Same thing is true of unit price discount, as we talked about when it came to promotional discount price, because it's a percentage. We wouldn't want to summarize that in any way. And the same thing is true of years open. Okay. Once I've kind of put this together, I've now built out a data model that's got a good number of visual or measures on top of it that's going to really help me get started in working with building out and working with my Power BI model. Now, I'm not done yet. Next thing I want to do is I want to start to build out some reports on this, make sure that this is working as I would expect it to. So I'm going to, just kind of do some checks to make sure that this stuff is right. So this is something that I do think is super important for you to do. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to go up and I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to save this into my Power BI reports. I'm going to call this my OBT data set, right? So this is going to be my OBT data set that I'm going to be doing some tests on. I'm going to build out a report on it, top of it too. So first thing though is I want to make sure that the data that I brought in is right and these things make sense. Okay. So as we said, it really makes sense that we'd want to look by, let's look at years opened. Let's add that in. We're going to do this into a grid. We're not going to summarize. Don't summarize this. Show me the years opened, right? And then give me where is a good thing? Total product cost. So I click on that. I could see what my total product costs are for a given period of time. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this stuff. Now I want to do something. I want to go back and I want to validate this against the data that I have inside my model to make sure that I've done everything right, that these things are chunking up and breaking out right, that this is based upon years open, that these are the right dollar amounts. So I'm going to go back over into SQL Server and I'm going to do something kind of fun here. I kind of like this one. I'm going to go in and I'm going to, what was it? Total, what am I saying here? Total what? Total product cost. So here I'm going to be looking at total product costs. Yep. I'm going to be going by year opened. So I'm going to highlight all these. I'm going to comment them out. I'm going to find that year opened, right? Because that's year opened. Year opened is right here, right? So I'm going to take all this stuff out that I've kind of identified before. I'm going to highlight. I'm going to make sure that I get this value just right. I'm going to go down to and I'm going to limit this query down to just what it is I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm looking at years open and total production costs. So I'm going to take years open. I'm going to say sum, right, of my total production costs. I'm going to close it off. I can call this as total prod cost. And then here's the big deal. You always want to make sure that you go down. So when you type this out, you do group by, order by, and then you hit F5 and you can see that the values are coming through. Now, you say to me, okay, hey, Chris, I can eyeball this stuff up. This stuff seems like if I'm lining this stuff up, these numbers look right. Okay, that's good, right? Like, hey, good, you've done your validation. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to take this the next step further. I want you to go out and I want you to do more validation on this. So I'm gonna show you how to do that now too, okay? So we're going to hop out back over to KranosBI.com where we went out and grabbed those views that we ran and created. I'm going to run over into my Get Started with Power BI, right? And one of the resources I have at the bottom is my Kranos BI Excel seed. This is one of my absolute favorite Excel spreadsheets that are out there. I've been using this guy for seriously almost 20 years, okay? So open this guy up. I want to download this guy, download file. Here we go. Download it. Open it up. Now that it's open, I'm going to enable editing, enable content. I'm going to save this as file, save as. I'm going to save it into one of my OneDrives here, OBT dataset, and this is going to be my validation. All right, I'm going to keep these together, okay? And this is a big deal, keeping these things together, because you're going to be coming back to this on a regular basis, okay? So once I have this in place, I'm really going to be focused in on my data validation side of the house. So I want to make sure that I'm validating the data that's coming into my model and that the measures I'm writing is correct, okay? So we'll minimize that guy. Now, I've got my OBT data set here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to publish this out into the service. I want to save changes. I'm going to publish this out into my datasets and data flows workspace. Right? And if you don't have a datasets and data flows workspace that's out there, go create one for you for where you're keeping all of your data sets, right? I highly recommend that. Hit select. It's going to publish this out into the service. Once that's done, come on now. Okay, good, cool, got it. Okay, once it's out there, I'm going to go in and I'm going to change the source on this model. When you open this up, you're going to see that this is connected already to a data set. You're probably going to get an error because it's connected to one of my data sets, right? So I'm going to click on from Power BI Datasets. And I'm going to choose the OBT dataset that I just published. And so this dumped into a new worksheet. That's fine. We can deal with that. What I'm going to do is here go my balancing. Delete that guy out of there. Go to my new sheet. Take this guy. Pivot table. I'm going to move the pivot table. I'm going to go back to my balancing. I'm going to drop this where I want it to be. Okay, so boom, now my pivot table is back here. This is connected to my OBT model. And remember, what are the things that we're testing out? We're testing out total product cost, right? And we're testing out the year that it was open. So let's go find year open. Year opened, drop that into rows. Okay, that we've got that there. So now I'm going to go over to my validation data set, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to go over, hit Control A, so I select everything on my data set. I'm going to right click, copy with headers. Then I'm going to go over here, and I see that I'm in the right line here, so I'm going to paste this in. So I see my 1974, right? Like this stuff is all in alignment, right? So if I go over and I look at my data set over here, oh yeah, extra here. So ignore that guy. That guy's meaningless to me. That guy's meaningless. All right, so I want to make sure that in this guy, it's we reset this guy. So this is xref is bladow. Right, so if this is equal, right, we should see ones all the way down. So we should be able to go down, validate that these things are lining up. What this does is it makes sure that the dimension that I'm breaking out by, that it's accurate for all of them, right? This should be exactly right on each one of them. If it's not, then you've got an issue. Oh, wait, that's insane. It's not. However, there must be some weird percentage thing going on there. Okay, so all these now line up. I'm good to go there. Now I want to do the same thing here. I want to do a subtraction. C14 minus M14. I should see zeros. That's great. Run that puppy all the way down. That's fantastic. Meaningless value because grand totals are nothing. So I've got zeros here, so that's good. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to, well, these don't matter at all for me because I don't have any values here that I care about. So we'll just delete these out. All right, so we've got no validations here. Okay, so now I have in my spreadsheet, I've got a validation where I'm validating out my total sale or total product cost, right? By these years, and it's all lining up, right? So these values are right. Now I can do something else here. I can go through and I can validate all my measures to make sure I'm not missing anything in any of the different places, right? So I can add in annual revenue. I can add in annual sales. I can add in discount amount. I can add in extended freight, and order quantity. And then let's say product sales. Okay, so I've got these things built out. Now you say, Chris, how the heck do I do those on the other side? Oh, well, I am super glad you asked. Now it becomes a simple matter of doing the exact same thing on this side. Sum, and then what I do? Annual revenue. Okay, so I've now written my query here. I've got my results. Now I can do the exact same thing that I did. I can go collect all, copy with headers. I go right back over to my table here. I can click on paste. Right? I can expand and blow this up. And I could take my logic that I had here. I can drag that all the way over. Drag that all the way over to see what my values are. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, we just have the fun here. I'm going to go around. I'm going to set this up like this so I can always see what my test values are. All right, so I'm subtracting one from another. I can now run this all the way over. I can see my values flush out, and I can run this all the way down to the bottom. And I can see that all of my tests are lining up, and I have everything all right. And hey, this is awesome. I'm super excited. I now have my balancing by my year. Right, so I'm going to rename this guy to balancing year. So I've got this guy that's out there, but now, okay, hey, this is good. You know, what I could do is I could do something as simple as I could grab this, so I could go in and I could always come back and I could run this again sometimes. I could sit down here and I could paste this into my query section so that my query is just copied inside of here. So I can always come back and I could access this, but I want to do something more than this because I want this to be a tool that I can come back to on a regular basis. All right, so I'm going to create a copy of this guy. I'm going to move her copy, create a copy. I'm going to stick it right there. All right, so I've got my new balancing one. Now I'm going to call this thing balancing year, and I'm going to call this one SQL. Okay, so inside here, I'm now going to delete all of this goodness. Right, and now we have all these things that are off, but watch this. I'm now going to go to data, and I'm going to go to get data from database. And here's my from SQL Server database, right? And I'm going to put in the same information that I had before, right? Like local host. I can say database name is, and you know, I'm a forgetful guy, so I always like to come back up here, go to connect. It'll show me the, I'm sorry. If I go up here and I can like kind of click here, copy it, come over here, hit paste. And you know what? I just want this to be this query. So I don't even, like I did before, I can go in here, I can select it. I can go over here to advanced options. I can paste it in. I can hit OK. It's going to run. Yep, use my current credentials, connect. Now, if you're connecting to another database that's out in the service, you might need to use your Microsoft account or a different databases, but this is running locally as me, so this is fine. So go connect. Yeah, it's okay. It's going to be not, I'm on my local desktop. It doesn't matter about the encryption, so that's fine. This is all the information I'm hoping to see. Yep, that's right. So load this. I'm going to choose load to. It's going to ask me where I want it to load to. And I want it to load to an existing worksheet. And I want to go in and I want to select where I want it to be loaded to. And so I want it loaded right into this cell right here so that it will line up with everything that I've already done. So I'm going to click on OK. Click on OK. It's going to generate all the data. So now my table's been brought into Excel. I now have my tests in place, right? So it's testing out and it's making sure that because I've used those Excel formulas, I'm testing out that I am getting all of the results that I would expect to have, and I'm validating all of the measures inside my report against the host system. Okay, so I am all set here when it comes to working with my model now. If there's ever any changes to the model or I make any updates, all I have to do is come in, go to my pivot table analysis. I can then say refresh. That's going to pull all this data again. And all I have to do is come here and I can right click on the table itself, hit refresh. It will run the query against the server and I'll be able to easily see how much or if there's any variance inside of my model. Okay, so one method here allowed me to do that with a copy and paste. This method allows me to go in and test out in a repeatable, ongoing fashion. Okay, so this is a super important part of building out any of our reporting and analytics, is we want to make sure everything adds up. We think, sure, of course it's going to add up, but we got to make sure, let's make sure that we're not missing anything or doing anything wrong, or that if we're writing any measures or advanced stuff that we're about to do, that we have these baselines in place to make sure that these things work and operate the way we'd expect them to. Okay, fantastic. Let's head back to it. Okay. Once this is in place, let's go back to Power BI. Again, we're going to be doing some reporting here. We can see that this data looks right, but we always want to make sure our reports and anything we do look sharp, look good, because, hey, we're professionals. We're not some scrubs. So we want to go into View. We want to go to this drop down. This allows us to choose different themes that we want to have applied to our report. We could go and we could apply the title theme. So we could go and, we could build out some different cool graphs based upon our the theme that's in the system, right? But if you've watched my other videos on how you create your own custom theme, that's what we want to do, right? So we want to go over to Browse Themes. We want to head out into our Power BI space. We want to go over to our Power BI themes, Creative BI themes, and I want to select my most recent theme because I keep that updated on a regular basis. And now I've imported my theme that's got everything all set up the way I want it to, so that I could start to build out content on top of this and know that I've got a consistent, good layout that's going to be in alignment with all of my other reports that I'm offering up inside the service. Okay, so I've got this all set up. I've got this ready, and I'm going to publish this. And frankly, I'm ready to go here. Right, I've got the stuff all put together that we kind of already talked about. We've got this where we want to have this in like the axis, and we want to actually do a table on this guy, and we want to do the exact same thing that we had before, where we have a whole bunch of measures that are on it so we can see this stuff out, so we can provide this information to our business users so they can understand what's going on inside our business, right? So we've got some details here. We've got this all kind of laid out, and then we'll also include like a total price by year opened, right? So we'll include a legend like that, so we can kind of see that broken out by time versus, or this is by order date, and this is by the year that was open. And, I'm going to throw that on so I can see how my orders have come, how my customers have come over time. You know what? I want to give that a little more room so I can, see a little more here. So I'll even space this out, extend this down, shrink this so we can kind of give ourselves some nice room in here to work with this. But I've got a fairly decent usable report right out of the gate, running off of a data model. And, this will help me when it comes to providing some good detailed information and understandable, usable patterns for our users that are going. And this is, there's no secret here. There's no big tricks, right? This is just coming off of a singular table that you probably you could have sourced in a bunch of different ways, but you've got this up and running. Okay. So you've got this all kind of put together, and you're kind of ready to get started using Power BI and one big table. Okay. Okay. So that's getting started with the Power BI Data God model, and we're just looking at one big table, how you can use that to work and operate inside of Power BI. I'm going to throw some big caution flags around here. You're just getting started, and you can deliver on this, but the size of the data is going to really matter. The amount of data that you have in memory and that you're pulling in and using in this structure is going to be a little bit challenging, right? So if you go super wide and you go super deep when it comes to data, you're going to find that it's hard to like bring this all into memory, right? Remember, Excel like used to only have like 60,000 records in it. Now you can do a few million or whatever. Power BI will do this kind of the same thing. And especially if you're just doing one table, it's super wide, super long, you'll run into some kind of constraints that'll really be system based. But so be careful, right? This is good for a lot of different cases and whatnot. But if you really want to get into like hundreds of millions of records or billions of records, which you 100% can, you're going to want to watch the next video that I've got for you guys. All right. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Heck, if you could leave a comment down below on the things you'd like to see, the things you'd like to understand about how to work with data and work with Power BI, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. There was a lot in this course, so please go ahead. If you have questions, shoot those my way. Leave those down in the comments, and myself and other viewers will be happy to help you walk through things and understand how these things work. You guys have a great day. Peace.